Okay, good man. Just want to get the meeting minutes up. Agenda.
Hey, Bennett, how are you?
Good. Welcome.
Sorry, where am I?
We can almost see you. We can see the right quarter of your face.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Miriam. We have a forum.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi, sorry I'm late. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
Yep.
All right, I'm in. Good.
So we are 106. We have a quorum. We are recording. Welcome, everyone. We have visitors from the department and also from CHFA. I did. Oh, Jennifer, welcome. I didn't see you come in. That's great. I think again.
Yeah, I just promoted her.
Excellent. All right. We're going to, before we hear from our guests and the department, I would like to have a motion to approve the minutes.
You know what? The audio is really coming in poorly. I don't know if it's, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I think there's some background noise. If you're not talking, would you mute yourself?
I'm going to mute myself.
I think everybody should do that. Now, having said that, I need someone to unmute and give us a motion to approve the minutes of March 10. Anybody?
I'll make a motion, Bennett.
Thank you, Marcia. And a second?
I'll second.
Ben, thank you. Any comments, questions, additions to the minutes of March 10? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, minutes are approved. If the department folks can bear with us, CHFA did ask if they could go first to give us a report on the home financing program. Colette, I'll turn it over to you and thank you.
Sure, and actually I'll have Marcus start. Marcus is joining us today so he can provide an update on the single family program, and I can follow up on the park purchase program after. But Marcus, thank you again for jumping in here this week. And if you've got some updates for us, I'm sure everybody would like to hear them.
Absolutely, yeah, thanks for inviting me back. I'm going to share my screen and build up a PowerPoint so that I can have some visual assistance here to tell the story. Let's see, and go. Okay, so I know last time we talked, we were about 12 days away from launching the refinance program and also the kind of reinvigorating the purchase program. So just wanted to give you a quick recap on what's happened since March 22nd when the programs went live. Just to remind you the kind of the key components of the marketing campaign that I outlined at our last meeting included, the direct mail component that we were going to be sending out to the current park residents, trying to post information in park newsletters and then maybe local newspapers, organizing some virtual presentations at park meetings, and then as they come in or as folks actually move through the program and take advantage of the resources, try to collect some of those personal stories or testimonials that we could just kind of then circle back around and recycle and kind of keep going, keep the ball rolling. So the phase one of the marketing campaign was two key components. Was standing up a page on our website that had both the purchase and the refinance programs as a landing page. So all you had to do was hit chfa.org/mobile home and it would take you right to the page where you could find both programs side by side, and then click through those icons to get more information, and then to follow through on instructions on how to apply. And then the printed materials that we created included a postcard. That postcard that went out to folks, and then we were rethinking brochures and leave behinds and different materials that we might be able to create and circulate at various events. So the data, so the numbers. So we were able to, with considerable help from both Dave and from folks that we kind of just checked in with across the council, to getting some good advice on how to actually find people, find the names and addresses of folks. So what we didn't want to do is just kind of drop a stack of postcards in the mail care of the park management company, or just send out blindly to resident, Mr. or Mrs. Resident at so-and-so address. So we took some time. It took about a month of going to all the assessors' websites and to reaching out to some assessor organizations to get data on exactly the names and addresses of folks who live in these communities. So we were able to compile a list of about 8,000 names and sent those postcards out in early March. No, early April, sorry. When was it? Early May. It took a month. Yeah, it took a while. So we got the postcards out, and you could see on this, this image here. Oops, go back. This image here is the kind of like a line chart showing the website traffic. So you can see the program launched on the far left here. You can see a little tiny peak, and then there's a gap. And then when that blue line, the blue vertical line, when the postcards went out, we saw a huge spike of what traffic to our website, which is exactly what we were hoping to accomplish, right? Getting the word out to folks and telling them where they can go for more information and how to apply. So we saw a pretty good spike in the week or so after the postcard hit the mail. And then we've seen kind of like a moderate amount of traffic to the website since then. And so as of June 4th, so this is as of last Friday, we've received 3 applications for the purchase program. One of them has been denied for the income. They didn't have the amount of income needed according to our underwriting criteria. One's been approved and one's pending, so that should be moving forward. And then on the refinance program, we received 5 applications, 2 approved, 2 pending, and 1 was denied. And that denial was because the person, there's an occupancy requirement. You have to have lived, you have to have been in your home for at least a year in order to refinance the loan on your home, and their occupancy hadn't been quite a year yet, so that was the only reason they were denied on that one. So other kind of like second tier components to our first phase of outreach was just getting the word out. Talking about trying to promote the program at any chance we got. So our CEO spoke at the Connecticut Mortgage Bankers Association's Affordable Lending Summit in April, and both the purchase and the refi program were kind of highlighted in that speech that she gave there. And then Connecticut Realtors Association has what's called the 5 and 5, so like a weekly segment that you can find on YouTube or on their website, where in 5 minutes they kind of tell 5 stories. So it's kind of it's a neat little thing they have going. And they invited us on in early May, actually just around the time that the postcards were going out, as it happened. And one of the managers on my team, Chris Galvez, was able to kind of participate in the interview and kind of give and the segment was focused solely on the mobile manufactured home programs. So what I was hoping to get some feedback on now is this phase 2, right? So I think we've done those kind of initial outreach efforts that we talked about last March, the postcard, updating the website, getting the word out however we could. So now, it's a beautiful, the weather's kind of cooperating with us. Things are starting to open back up, which we hadn't really anticipated in March. So we thought everything's going to be virtual this time, even by now. So we see that there's an opportunity for more flexibility, realizing that not everybody's in the same place in terms of comfort level of engaging in face-to-face things. But so these are some ideas. I mean, this is just kind of like my team kind of brainstorming, throwing some ideas at the wall, and really I was hoping to get some feedback from you all in terms of like what resonates with you, what seems feasible, what seems like a total waste of resources, and maybe some other ideas that you might have. Maybe some of this will spark some other things that you have in mind. So just kind of go down real quick. So if now that we're able to potentially go out and meet in person with folks, could we do kind of like a tour of various parks? I don't think we'd be able to hit all of them because there are quite a bit, but we could be strategic about it, or we could just be, hey, if we could be, invite us in. We could, if there are folks that are interested, we could coordinate a time to come out and do some door-to-door activities. We could organize in-person meet and greets, give presentations on the programs, like if there are some sort of community events or meetings that might occur. We could even just set up tables, like if you have like a community space that, we could just leave, brochures and pre-printed applications. So people, those who don't have printers, they could just grab one, fill it out, drop it in the mail. And so other ideas we've talked about, actually, Dave and I were kind of kicking this one around a little bit ago, is maybe if there are park associations or resident associations or homeowner associations that would like to co-sponsor some sort of virtual town hall, we could stand something up on Facebook, like a Zoom kind of thing, right? And so people could log in, ask questions in the chat, or just kind of jump in on video and just ask questions about the program. We could answer them in real time. And then another idea was, could we sponsor an open house so that if there are homes for sale in your community, we could kind of coordinate or partner up with a realtor who's trying to sell the home and promote the purchase program, is one idea. And then the final one that we had just kicking around was, we know that we're trying to look at where homeowners are also out and about. Like, so we're thinking some folks might be going to their local senior center for activities if those things are happening. I'm not sure if those are open yet, but so senior center newsletters, both digital and print, we could put some advertisements in there, or maybe write up a blurb about the programs. And then things like church bulletins, I think, is another thing we might be able to put a little. And we've actually talked to some agencies who cover almost the entire state in both of these places, both the senior center newsletters and church bulletins. They have, it's kind of like a, believe it or not, there's actually a niche business in advertising that that can reach all of those markets. So that's all I have. I mean, I'm really happy I could circle back and talk more about the other slides and the data that we're seeing so far and answer questions on that. We could maybe brainstorm a little bit on what we think, what might be some good ideas in terms of like next steps and outreach, but that's all I got. So I'll stop talking.
Super, Marcus, thank you so much. That's an incredible effort on the part of your folks and all of CHFA. Let me open this to reaction questions from the council members.
This is Dave Delory. I haven't had a chance to look at the actual website presentation for the programs. What are the rates that are being offered? I'm not even familiar with that.
Sure. So I don't have offhand the purchase rate. I'd have to go look at it because that changes every day. We set that every morning in terms of like what based on the market rate. But the refinance rate is actually 1%. So, and I'll kind of, if a verbal asterisk on that with a footnote is our APR is somewhere between 1.15 and 1.3, I believe. So so the APR might change, but the rate that's for the program is 1%.
Okay, so then I'm in the former Jensen's, which is now Sun Communities, and they have, a marketing program that they try to, encourage residents to sell through them. I made them aware of this new program, a while ago when we first started talking about it. Do you, have you been contacted by their sales reps or by their sales rep about the program?
I have not. Happy to do. We could be proactive about it. If you think that's a good relationship, we could reach out. If you have a contact person, I'd be happy to.
I can do that. So
yeah.
I can certainly do that. I've let her know to contact Jaffa. I don't know whether they ever did or not. So then the other question I have is, we don't have a formal residents association here, but they have a activity club that meets once a month. And potentially I could try to get in front of them and get them to publicize there's a clubhouse here that is for 4 or 5 different Sun communities to share. So you could potentially get quite a few people there. So that's something that we could certainly look into from just this community. I don't know what the situation is I don't know too many other communities, whether they have residents associations or not. Some of the park owners might know that.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an event coming up that that makes sense, you're going to have like a pretty solid audience there, then we could definitely talk about how we might be able to attend. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me talk to the management and the people at the activity club, and I'll see what I can do.
Okay, great. Yeah, and Dave, while you were talking, I was listening, I promise, but I was also looked up the interest rate for the purchase program.
Marcus?
And yes. Yep. Hello?
Marcus?
Can you hear me? Okay. I can hear you. Can you hear
Marcus? Can you take the screen share down if you can hear me?
Yeah. How's that? Can you hear me okay?
Hello?
Okay, great. I can hear and see people. Can people hear and see me?
Yes. I can
Okay,
hear
great.
you.
I don't know. It sounds like whoever's talking to me can't hear or see me.
Marcus, we could not hear your telling us what the purchase.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so the purchase rate, I just looked it up on the website. The purchase rate is somewhere between
I don't know what's going
2.75.
on. Hello?
You're here, go ahead.
2.75 and 2.875. So it's somewhere in that ballpark. And depending on, there's points involved. And so the rate I would say is kind of somewhere between 2.75 and 3, just to be on the conservative side. But you can find all that information on our website.
Great.
Thanks.
Al, just want to let you know that you appear to be
Bennett?
unmuted. Can you hear us and speak? Al?
Hello.
Yes, we
Okay.
hear you. Go
I
ahead.
can see you and talk to you, but for some reason, my camera is not working to show a picture. I don't know why.
That's all right. We can hear
Hello?
you. man. You're good.
Somebody
Okay.
else is-
Bennett, I see I'm under Dave's name because Dave forwarded me the link, but I'm still me. It seems to me that working through the park owners group is really an important part of this, because the park owners have access to so many residents. I don't know to what extent residents in a
You don't
park.
hear anything.
Oh, you can't. Can anybody hear me?
We
I
can hear
can.
you fine.
I think it's Bob who's having the technical issues, because I can hear everybody else, but it seems like he is having some issues.
Yeah, I can hear everyone too.
I can hear everybody.
All right,
Bennett,
same.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
all right, then I'm going to keep going for
Yep.
whatever. that's
keep
worth.
going.
Hello?
To what extent are homes financed, especially in the larger parks, financed through the park owner, as distinct from residents going off on their own and trying to find a lender to finance a purchase? I mean,
Well,
if-
I can't hear anything.
I think you're talking about two different things, Bennett. I'm sorry, Rafi. So we don't offer financing because it's unless and Dave, you would know about Sun, but unless they're a loan originator, we don't offer financing to our residents. We refer them to lenders that are active in the space of mobile home financing. But we don't lend ourselves. It's against the law unless you have a loan originator's license, which most of us won't do. It's just too cumbersome.
Okay, so in terms of both the question of refinancing and the question of initial financing, to what role do the park?
Can anybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't. It's coming in broken up. My internet's connected. I don't know what.
Okay. So, so Dave, we do, so when Marcus, actually Marcus and I worked a lot on this.
I can make Bennett the host and make it re-sign in.
Say that again?
Gonna make you the host.
Sure.
That would require everybody to sign back in.
No,
Just-
if I'm the host, I don't think so. Just Bob.
Okay.
So-
All right, that's fine.
Bennett, I'm gonna make you the host so I could re-sign in,
Bob,
okay?
Bob, the other thing you could try is just mute yourself, turn off your speakers and dial in by phone. So Rafi, you've posed.
Rafe, go ahead.
Bennett, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Bob.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes, Bob.
I don't think Bob can hear you, Ben. I think that's the problem.
I'm afraid to talk.
Bob, we're gonna have to,
Oh, that's a first.
Hey, oh, I'm gonna,
Ooh.
I'm on my way. So Rafi, we did a lot with Marcus when this thing started. We supplied lists, we sent out newsletters to our tenants. We sent out our own flyer that they gave us to send out. I mean, this is a huge program. So we've been actively being involved. Obviously, we're realtors as well. So we sell our own homes, but the buyer obviously has to go out and get their own financing. But what we've been doing now is saying, okay, here's another option. The one thing that we can't do is we have to be very careful. We're not pushing a buyer into a specific financing thing, because then it looks like we're receiving some benefit, and then that's where the law gets you. So we're very skittish. I wish that mobile home parks weren't included in the SAFE Act, but unfortunately they were. When the bubble hit, we were included in the SAFE Act, even though, we're selling 25.
I'm gonna have to sign off.
Okay, take care.
And
So I think the idea of getting in front of residents through, especially where Dave lives, where they have fantastic, a fantastic community with a community center and stuff like that, is a huge opportunity. Also for us, I know Nancy's on mute, but we have a year-end meeting coming up in November at either Mohegan Sun at Foxwoods, but you have an opportunity, right, Nancy, to come and speak in front of a lot of owners of, a good portion of parks in Connecticut, that we would love to have you guys come and pitch the program, because a lot of times we get the benefit because we're kind of a part of these meetings and and our own association, but sometimes it's very hard to get this kind of information out to the masses. So if you guys, I know, again, we're talking about November, but if you're interested, once we're starting to put together the agenda, we'd love to have you guys come and pitch the program. Then you're in front of a lot of people that control a good portion of the number of communities in Connecticut.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, Mark, this is Dave again. I do, did I understand you correctly that you have been trying to promote this through your mailings or contacts from your own residents?
Yes.
Because to my knowledge, quite surprisingly, Sun has not done that. And I'm just wondering, you would think that,
all right, back.
Yep, we can see you.
Oh my God. I don't know. I hate this. I
Right,
hate
Bob, we're
this.
good. We're good to go.
All right,
right.
so
Good to go.
So
So,
Dave, I can absolutely speak to Kathy, right, and those guys, and I think I shared too, right, Nancy? Didn't I share what we sent out to?
Yes.
Yeah, so I actually shared what we sent out, Dave, to our parks, and I'm happy to call Kathy directly, and I'm not
Kathy
looking
is-
to, I can't impose anything on them. They're their own business or whatever, but sometimes people are so busy they just can't get their head around stuff. But I'm happy to kind of talk to her and let her know what we did, just to remind her.
Kathy is somebody here at Sun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know do you know her name?
It's weird that you don't know her name. Isn't he live in that community? Am I wrong, Nancy? Doesn't he
I
live
do.
in that community?
Yeah, he
does.
I do.
Yeah.
We haven't heard anything from them on this program at all.
Okay, we're gonna need to move on, Dave.
All right,
I
okay.
do want to report, Mark Brukowitz was unable to be here today. He has received material and he does intend to share it with all of his park residents. So I said I would pass that along. Any other industry folks have observations, suggestions to offer Marcus?
I have one suggestion. Marcus, did you send out this program out to all the different real estate boards? I know you sent out the car, and that's how you got your 5 and 5, but that's just a small window. I belong to a couple boards, and I also get emails from them frequently about different things, and it would be a good way to get the word out to the real estate industry.
Yeah, that's great. I think it was just the car that we reached out to. So we can do more digging, but if you have some maybe some contacts or just like check out this website or whatever, that would be helpful too.
There's a state board of realtors, right, Joe?
Well, that's what you had. That's what they went out. CAR is Connecticut Association of Realtors, which means most realtors belong to CAR, but then there's local boards. Okay, so I'm saying about also do this mailing or contact the local board who will also contact all their members. So it just gets it out a little more in front of the agents.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, we can definitely follow through on that.
But you'd be referring to something like the Greater Hartford Board of Realtors, or
That's a board. That's correct.
Okay.
But there is also Tri-Town Board, there's Northeastern Board. So there are several other boards. The boards do, and they don't, not all the members belong to Greater Hartford Board, for example. So it's to get the word out to more than just a few agents.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
Marcus, do you know if DCP and DOH have updated their links to you?
I don't know, but we can look into it, and if they haven't, then we can outreach to the agencies and find out how to get those links updated.
Jennifer, is that something you can help Marcus with? Jennifer? You seem to be muted. No.
So Marcus. Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Okay, this is Al Ritz. Can you send an email link to me as far as that situation goes for like realtors? Because when the people are buying into my community, they're looking out there for some realtor to handle the situation as far as the sale of the home to them. So I just had like 4 applications that were approved recently by the board. So if that link is somewhere on, that I can access, I can copy it and give those people the information when they come in case they need somehow to, get money. Most of them are buying up from the funds that they have or sale of their own home, but I'm sure I'm going to have people that need some kind of help.
Why don't we do this? If Marcus or Colette would just send it to Bob, we'll send it out to the whole council.
You got it.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yep.
Jennifer, we're still unable to hear you. Are you with us?
She sent a chat. She said she could help.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Jennifer, I'll shoot you a message directly to see how we can do that.
Any other comments from Marcus before we let him go?
No.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Marcus.
That's fantastic.
All right,
Appreciate it.
And I don't want to impose, but if there's at the next meeting, if you'd like me to come back in and give these updates, I'm happy to do so. So just let me know or let Colette know.
You're ours for life, man.
Thank you, Marcus, for all your
Sounds
help.
good.
Us.
All right.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
be
you,
well.
Marcus.
Bye-bye.
Colette, would you mind if we hold off the second half of the CHFA so that we let the agency folks
Sure.
get back to their business too? Pamela and Cynthia, thank you both for being patient, and Janita. Who needs to go first?
It's Pamela Brown, Director of Investigations, along here with Janita Hamill, Supervising Special Investigator, who will talk to you first about the report. I would appreciate if I could go first because I do have a meeting coming up with the commissioner that I need to just prepare for. So Janita, you want to start off with the report?
Sure. Commissioner Pudlin, I believe that Mr. Kuzmich should have sent the reports to all the members. I resent the December 1st, 2020 to February 2nd, February 28th, 2021 file because you all had questions for legal, and I believe Cynthia Fernandez either provided you information or can speak to that. So I don't need to go into depth with that. I just sent it again because you all had questions the last time. The next report file that is there is the current one since your last meeting, March 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2021, which was sent. And do you or any of your members have any questions, sir?
I do.
Go ahead, Dave.
So I've been made aware of a complaint that was filed and acknowledged on May 4th from a mobile home park that is unlicensed in Thomaston.
Sir, excuse me, sir. The department's aware of that. That's a new case and we can't discuss it. If you would like to email me directly about it later, you're more than welcome.
Why is it not on the report?
Because it came in, it will show that there's 2 open cases. Because there's also an issue with some licensing up there. So it's under a complaint file, but we are aware of it. We are working on it, and I'll gladly discuss it with you off the record, and you can email me later.
I'll certainly do that. I'm just trying to get straight of, you know, your report is dated ends 5/31/21.
Yeah.
And it's not included on the report. I have the report. I have the complaint number if you need it, but it's why is it not on the report?
No. We have run into this problem with the reports with the architect board. I run the report based on what's in the system, and we are finding that there are some glitches with it that we have brought to the IT's attention where some files have not been pulled in. I don't have an answer why. I'm not with IT, but I can tell you I'm well aware of the Thomaston file. And we are actively working on it.
How do we assure the residents that that is the case? Because they're asking questions.
They could send an email to me, to Special Investigator Keith Lombardi, who was assigned the file.
Right. And they haven't heard from him.
Then you and I will need to speak about this afterwards.
Okay. And how do I reach you?
My direct number is 860-305-6024.
Okay. Are you guys aware that there are what appear to be significant violations of local zoning and other ordinances up there?
Sir, I can't discuss that in this open forum, but you can gladly call that number and you and I will discuss it.
All right, one last question. Are you guys contemplating taking actions on this individual for not being licensed and trying to collect rents?
Sir, we are actively investigating the case at this time. A report will go to legal for administrative action upon the completion of the investigation, and legal will pursue whatever they need to pursue.
Okay, I'll call you after the meeting at some point, and maybe you can tell me, you know, whatever you're allowed to You can't say here.
We are actively investigating it, and unfortunately, because I'm looking at a spreadsheet, I can't see the screen. So can I have your name, sir?
Sure, Dave. I'll spell the last name, D-E-L-O-H-E-R-Y.
Delorty?
Delory.
Okay, sure.
Okay, I'm sorry, one other question. How many other open investigations do you have that are not shown on this list?
Sir, the report goes from March 1st through to the end of May. There are 2 open cases. Of the 11, there are 8 that are closed, and there's 1 case that was closed by legal. If you are aware of another park where there is a complaint with a file number that is not appearing on this list that I am not aware of, because I can only go by what the computer complaint report pulls in. You're more than welcome to give me that information, but all I have to work with is based on what the existing report created by the IT group pulls in off of the computer system.
All right, I don't really think that's responsive to my question, but I will call you, or you can call me. I'll call you, and maybe we can talk about this further off the record from the meeting.
But again, Mr. Delorty, I'm not avoiding your question. The problem is the reports are pre-created by the IT group. I put the dates in and I hit Excel, the report, and this is what comes up. And this is what I provide to you, the Mobile Home Park Council, and every other board and commission that I report to. And there are 12 of them.
All right, well, Pam, I don't want to belabor this, but you know, when I did give you the information about the one that I know about, you said you were well aware of it. What I'm asking is, how many other are you well aware of that are not on our report?
None.
Okay.
Absolutely none.
Okay.
I believe she has addressed the question. So Janita has addressed the question. So we are belaboring the point. We can reach out later and have a discussion. Complaints are allegations. We need time to investigate them. And as Janita stated, once it is completely investigated, the report is written, we either refer it to legal for enforcement action, possible hearing, compliance, whatever they choose to do. And that's the normal course of our cases.
Got it.
Any other question about the?
Could I ask a question? I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. If for residents of any park, not just this particular complaint, but just in general, can they get, for them to get information about what's happening in their own park? Can they, do they need to call you? How would they find out what the status of an investigation is?
If they are the complainant in a particular instance where they have an issue with the park and they have filed a complaint, that person who filed the complaint will be dealing directly with the investigator who was assigned the complaint investigation.
So, okay. So what about someone who lives in the park?
If they are not the complainant, then the department cannot provide information about an open investigation to someone who is not the complainant.
What about an investigation? Investigation, I understand, may not be the right word for this, but something that's generated by the department itself, for example, in doing an annual inspection, and it generates, perhaps the investigator speaks with residents while he's there and generates a department issued complaints. And how would the residents find out as to which of the complaints that they verbally discussed with the investigator are in fact being investigated. Would any resident of the park be able to call the investigator, or would the department keep that information confidential from the residents?
Again, I can't see the pictures. I believe you're Rafi.
I'm Rafi, yes.
Okay, I recognized your voice. Again, I apologize. I have a multi-factor box that's going to ask me to authenticate who I am. If I touch that, I am going to be kicked out of this meeting. So unfortunately, I'm stuck looking at the spreadsheet. In answer to your question, when we do an inspection, an annual inspection, and if somebody approaches us, the normal course of business action is to give the person asking a question a business card. However, with the COVID restrictions that we've been working under, we basically have been doing inspections in the car with the mask on and not having interaction with residents. But normally when there's no COVID, we are normally giving business cards and stuff. And even with the COVID, if somebody was to approach, I would roll the window down, even with a mask, and just hand my business card to them or ask them to step 6 feet away. But we're technically not supposed to be getting out of the vehicles at this time. And that was by agreement with the governor's office so that we could continue doing mobile home park inspections under the COVID restrictions that are slowly being lifted.
I think my question to be a little broader than that, which is, how would a park resident find out what's going on in relation to an inspection that was done, whether the particular resident spoke to the inspector or not? But how would the resident know what conditions are being investigated?
I'll take that answer. I'll answer that question, Pamela Brown. First of all, if someone has an issue with their park, they should be filing their own complaint. Regardless if we're out there inspecting the park for our annual inspections that we do, like Janita says, we will hand out a business card and say, please go to our website or give me a call and file your own complaint if there is a concern that you would like us to address. When they file their complaint, then they have access to information related to the park, access to any ongoing questions that we might have of them, that they can provide us with details. So they are now a party of the complaint. So they should file if they have an issue. Once the case has, of course, gone through its normal process and course of action through the department, they are entitled to the information under the Freedom of Information Act. That's available to the public, anyone. But if someone has a concern and they see our inspector out there, our investigator out there, they should take that business card, and that's what we normally will direct them right to our website, or you can email me at here's my business card, the email address is there, send me your concerns, and then we can consider it for a new complaint.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a couple of questions. One, Janita, I think you were here when Rafi asked just before we started the meeting whether it's possible to get the quarterly inspection reports that Bob sends out before a meeting in a format that is legible. They came miniaturized, and not everybody on the console is tech savvy enough to be able to manipulate those. Is that something you could ask IT to work on, or that you could do yourself before you pass it on to Bob?
Mr. Pudlin?
Yes.
That when people get the reports in the PDF and they open it, if there are plus signs at the top that people can click on that will increase the size of the report and the font. When I look at it, when I do the spreadsheet before it has to go into the PDF format to be sent, because we're still working remotely, I try to use a large font for all my reports, for all my boards, councils, and commissions. But you can manipulate it by clicking on the plus sign or in the percentage drop-down box. If they click on that, you can then increase it to 100%, 125, 150, 200%.
Yeah, there are lots of ways you can increase or decrease the size.
Right, but Bennett,
just-
the reason you don't want her to do it bigger is because it's columns A through R. So what they're trying to do when they create the PDF is have it on one sheet. If not, what happens is it prints on multiple pages, and then you're trying to line up you're trying to line everything up, and it's harder. So it's actually easier to do it the way they're doing, and then just increase the size, as somebody just said.
Rafe, are you okay?
Well, part of the problem is that it's you can make, as long as you're going to work off the computer screen, what Janita said works. It's a problem if you're trying to print it out.
Oh,
Right. Yes.
Then read it, because
Yes.
for some of us, I think, everybody's different. Some people work fine off of a computer screen. Some people, I always print stuff out and then work with it on paper. That becomes very difficult to do because.
Right, because yes, I understand.
It's not like an Excel document where you just print it as multiple pages.
No, but Rafe, when you go to print it at a certain percentage. So your printer should say, print whatever, and then you can actually increase the size of the printing. But it will come out a little bit weird because you may get multiple pages. But you can increase the size of the print.
You see, okay, I see what you're saying.
The-
I'm trying it right now as we sit here.
The other thing, Rafi, is if you print it and when you go to print properties, if you click on landscape and you have the 8.5 by 14 paper, it should come out on one page large enough that you should be able to see it, provided you print it at 100%.
Okay.
That's something else to try. It's easy. It was easier when we were all meeting, obviously, at 450 or 165, and I was able to provide Bob with a printed copy, and he could make print copies and hand it out. But with the Zoom, this is what we have at this time.
Thank you. My other question goes to the status of inspections. Pamela, I don't know if you or Janita want to talk to that. Where are you?
Sure. Just for the annual inspections thus far, we have completed about 130. We have approximately 60 left to do. Of course, if we have any violations, we are working with any violations found, we are working with the park owners to get those resolved. This is a spring time, we're going into summer, so driveways can get paved, trees can get cut down, debris can get removed, whatever it is. The inspectors are out there. They're not only, out, I should not use the title inspectors or special investigators, they're out there working with the park owners. They're also driving around. They're doing all this simultaneously. They're doing an excellent job. As I mentioned before, because of this Herculean task, I had to pull in supervisors and people from other areas. I myself have gone out. And then we did have some challenges with the pandemic slowing us down a little bit because we had to get the PPE in place. And just setting up our protocols of how we're going to do things without interacting with the residents, because at the time people were not vaccinated, and we also had some winter storms in the month of February. But I'm pretty happy with Janita's leadership over this project. She is the project leader, which I had to designate one person because we're pulling people from different units to get this done. But we're still plugging ahead to wrap these up.
Thank you. And when do you have a plan and a time frame for implementing the new schedule of inspections under the revised statute?
No, I do not at this moment, because that will require a meeting with the commissioner and legal and Leslie. So once we get together, I'm sure that will be revealed to you.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
So, excuse me, I do have another question about an individual complaint. It's 2020-223. It was filed, well, I don't want to give the names out, but it's the Country Mobile Park. And it was a complaint that was filed against the receiver that was appointed. And I sent out, after I got permission from the complainant to send it, I sent it out to everybody on the distribution list for today's meeting. So Pamela and Janita, I don't think you're going to see it yet. So, but it's a pretty strongly worded letter complaining that the management company that was appointed has not been found.
Mr. Delarty, that matter is in legal.
The complaint has been closed.
Right.
That's
this is Cynthia.
You need to talk to Attorney Fernandez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I can't get any information even though it's closed.
No.
I'm not hearing you, Dave. Dave?
Sorry.
Attorney Fernandez will answer the question, sir.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Fernandez is present at the meeting at our request, Dave.
Well, I wasn't aware of that just right now.
Yeah, she's right here on the screen. You can see her name.
Okay.
We're
So
going to get there in a moment. Do you have any further questions for Pamela or Janita?
no.
Anyone else on the console have questions?
I have one last thing for Janita before she
Sure.
about to leave. In experimenting about access to the size of these things and printing them in the charts, if they were presented not as PDFs, but as Excel documents, which it looks like they probably originally were, that it's possible, if we're only interested in 2 or 3 or 4 of the columns, then you can manipulate them to fit onto a nice sheet of paper at a decent size. But because it's a PDF, you can't get rid of any of the columns. So you're stuck with, fit a 20 column wide piece of paper. So I guess I would ask you to think about the possibility of circulating them, the exact same thing, but in an Excel format, which would then allow those of us who would like to focus to be able to actually consolidate the 5 columns we care about into a single page and work off of them. Because there's a lot of, even to make the columns less wide so that you can put more in horizontally. So I would just offer you that as a suggestion that would help meet that need.
Thank you, sir. I will let them know and we will go from there.
Thank you.
you. There being
You're
no
welcome.
further questions, Cynthia, sorry
Hello.
for holding you up. Thank you both, Pamela and Janita.
You're welcome, Chairman Pudlin.
thank you.
Cynthia, would you?
Sure. So I can start with 2020-223 that we were just referring to. I did just close the matter recently, I think at the end of May at some point. The one issue that was referred to legal was the complaint about trees not being cut down in a timely manner or brush being cleared in a timely fashion. There were many complaints in that, many issues brought up in that one complaint. Before it was passed on to me, investigations ran through many of those issues. I can't remember off the top of my head how many there were, but there were many. And the receiver did provide evidence of compliance with the, court appointment, the reason why the receiver was appointed, the tree work. There were accusations of asbestos removal not being done properly. There were accusations of trees not being cut and trailer removal not being done properly. But before it was referred to me, the investigations did manage to get all the evidence that they needed from the receiver, which has also been submitted to the court, by the way, to show that the work that was being claimed as not being done was actually done and invoiced and paid for and being done by contracts, by licensed contractors, particularly the asbestos removal, of course, but they were all licensed contractors that were hired by the receiver, and that was submitted to investigations before the complaint was referred to me for the one issue of the tree removal. Once I got that one issue of the tree removal, I reached out to the receiver, who then provided a written statement from the licensed arborist that was contracted to go through the entire park, really, based on the court-appointed receiver order, so that the arborist provided a statement that he had cleared all of the dangerous trees and the hazardous trees that were near mobile homes, and that the trees that were not removed were still live. He also said that at some point that they're going to have to reevaluate the park because of an emerald ash borer, which I believe is some kind of pest that damages ash trees. And he did say that that's something that they have to reevaluate, but the dangerous trees and dead trees were removed and, taken out of the park at that point. So with that evidence, that was the final issue, and that's why I closed the file. Now that it's closed, it's a pretty voluminous case. Now that it's closed, if you'd like, just after the meeting, send me an email and I can forward it to our FOI contact, and they can, provide whatever information you're looking for on that particular case, if you still want that.
I have a question. If I can just ask a quick one on country, this is Miriam Clarkson, I'm sorry, on Country Mobile Estates, because we who do have properties around that area are asked occasionally as to what is going forward with Country Mobile Estates. I'm a little confused. I don't know anything about this receiver. Is the property being sold? And I mean, is it going to be turned around? Is there a new buyer? Can anybody tell us what's going on with it?
So if that's a long story, so I just want to make sure that the 223 case, that Mr. Delory is satisfied with that. And, if there's any remaining questions on it, or if you'd like more information from the file, now that it's closed, it is shareable under FOI.
So I'm confused on a couple things. So even after the case is closed, you have to file an FOI request to get any information on it.
That is the procedure.
All right. So then you received this letter from Ann, and it's a pretty strongly worded letter. I think the real reason that I'm bringing this up is the fact that she was unaware that it had been closed until I happened to notice the report that went out last week and made her aware of it and asked her about what was going on with it. She alleges that nobody contacted her about any of this stuff, and that's what she's really upset about.
I understand. I received an email from her yesterday, and I've yet to respond to her because I've got a lot of work on my plate, but I do intend to respond to her individually later this week. I think the issue sometimes with complainants is that I don't want to brush off, a complainant, but I don't work for the complainant. My job is to ensure that, statutory or regulatory enforcement is done. So it's not a matter of reaching out to the complainant to see if they're satisfied with, the evidence that I've received or the result. It's more, if I'm getting evidence that a licensed arborist has gone through and cut down trees that are dangerous and close to the mobile homes, that's really what I need. That's the information that's required, you know, for to satisfy the complaint, not so much, you know, whether or not the complainant is satisfied with every particular detail. With, you know, I'm not a representative of the complainant. I represent the department. So I think sometimes complainants aren't satisfied with that, but I do intend to reach out to her individually. But honestly, you know, with a licensed arborist, you know, informing me that dangerous trees and dead trees were removed and providing me evidence with that, and also the court accepting the receiver's reports of all of the work that's been done so far, I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. The reason I'm interested in this is that this is the part where the tree fell on the guy's house with him in it. And that was subsequent to this complainant's numerous complaints that were filed regarding trees that took place before that incident happened. And that's why she's so upset. You know, of course, she alleges that there's still dangerous trees there. Do you know, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, is the arborist you're referring to the same one that she refers to in this most recent letter called Pepin Tree Service?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I can forward that information to her. All right. Then I'm going to have one other suggestion. I'm just going to throw this out there to the council. This park has been a problem, at least as far as DCP complaints go, since 2017. It's now in receivership. We don't know what's going on with it. I have been, let me finish. I have been there, not recently, but I was there a year and a half or so ago. And in the past, before I was a member of the council, but attending the meetings, I remember there used to be on-site visits, at least to Jensen's communities. And given the history of this park, and since we don't know where it's going, I'm going to suggest that at some point in the future, the council organize a visit to this park to see what it is like now, to see what it's like going forward, no matter who the new manager or owner.
Okay, so I think I can get to Ms. Clarkson's question about the current status of the receivership.
I think I missed something along the line as to what's happening with all this. Go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Before you do, Cynthia, may I just please call your attention to
Sure.
The new regulation 2183E-1. If the department initiates an enforcement action with an identifiable complainant, the department shall make reasonable efforts to notify the complainant of the disposition of the complaint. Is that not applicable in the situation Dave has just raised?
Meaning to reach out to the complainant?
Shall make reasonable efforts to notify the complainant of the disposition of the complaint. Yes.
Yes. And that's why, you know, honestly, without personalizing this, I closed this complaint, I believe, on the 25th, and then I've been out on an emergency. So my lack of follow-up is more a matter of my not being in the office, to be honest.
Okay. Sorry about the emergency. I was not aware of that.
No,
I just wanted to clarify, because I had the impression from what you said to Dave that the department had no obligation to notify the complainant of the disposition.
No, I'm not saying no obligation to notify the complainant of a disposition, more that it's if I have found that there is sufficient evidence provided by, you know, licensed contractors doing work that they have evidence that has been done, whether or not a complainant is satisfied with that, sometimes I can't help, you know what I mean? If I have evidence that the work is done and someone is still unsatisfied with the work, but the work is done and meets statute and regulation, there's only so much I can do at that point. I'm not saying that I'm not obligated to communicate information to her. Like I said, I received her email. I just haven't had a chance to respond to her.
Okay,
So,
but I just want to clarify that you wouldn't need an email from her under normal circumstances, because you would be doing that on your own, right?
Right, and I can't tell you how many times I've communicated with complainants. It's just in this particular case, I closed the case and literally I've been out of the office.
Understood, understood.
since.
I also
Bennett?
just want to, excuse me, Rafe. I also
Yeah.
just want to clarify that on the inspection side, before it goes to legal, we've been repeatedly assured by the department for years that the inspector would always talk to the complainant about the situation. So presumably that was done before it came to you, Cynthia?
I can tell you that there are a lot of communications in this file between investigations and the complainant, yes.
Okay. So all I'm trying to suggest is, of course, you don't have an obligation to satisfy every complainant, and that you have to apply the department's standards for what constitutes compliance. But it is certainly possible that the representative who provides the information, or in this case, the contractor, is mistaken or otherwise wrong, and the complainant might well have dispositive evidence of that. And so it would make perfect sense that someone at the department would be talking to the complainant before unilaterally dismissing a complaint.
I think that's really the issue. Cynthia, I perfectly understand about the timing thing. It's, she only knew that it was dismissed because I made her aware, because I saw it on the report that went out. And I don't think at the time, it's certainly within a reasonable time frame to notify her of the disposition. I want to second what Bennett just said, though, because you've spoken to the professionals, and the professionals were assigned to deal with some of these trees, over the last couple of years. She's not satisfied by it. I don't know who's right, but I think it's only fair for you to hear the other side of the story before you make a disposition of the case, just regardless of whether the tree surgeon or the arborist says that it's right. I think it's only fair to talk to the residents.
Sure. I just want to clarify that it's not a matter of, I didn't dismiss the case and disregard the complainant's issue. The issue is more, whose word do I accept? The licensed arborist, or someone who's a resident looking at a tree, making a determination that it's dangerous, when dangerous trees or trees that have been removed from areas that are close to mobile homes.
What I'm trying to say is you make the disposition after maybe the resident is completely full of it. That's right. Very possible. But the problem is this is the same resident who was, crying wolf for a couple of years before the tree that almost killed somebody did in fact fall. So yes, you should accept the word of the tree surgeon, but you should also talk to the resident who's complaining.
Sure, I have no problem with that.
I guess I want to add, because this is a long-standing problem before this particular complaint. Bennett and I have been around this for a long time, which is, and it's broader in some ways for the department, because this impacts consumer complaints generally in the complaint center. But it's the process by which, and Cynthia, you're following the process, and so you haven't done anything wrong. But the process does not put the complainant into it in a way that those who are performing, settling the cases, can be confident that the information they've gotten from the in this case from the park owner's end, or from the professional, is generally agreed upon as being correct. And so I think what both Dave and Bennett said is very important, which is that there ought to be, before a complaint is closed, some aspect of the routine process in which an identifiable complainant is told, we will be closing the case because the work has been done. Do you have any problem with that? And if they say, yes, I do, I don't think the work has been done properly, then maybe you have to send the inspector out again. They don't get to veto it. I'm not suggesting that they have a veto right over your decision, but it's like a red flag that comes up and says, the resident or the complainant doesn't feel that this work has been accomplished. The way it's come up in other cases is that you've got the complainant has made 8 complaints and you get a resolution on 3 of them and you close the file. I'm not saying you personally, but DCP. And nobody tells the resident before it's closed that the other 5 items have not been resolved, but the department has decided essentially they're not important enough because you've got sort of the 3 biggies. And nobody says, do you have a problem with our closing the file? And if the answer was, yes, I do, these things need to be done, either you relook at the issue, and perhaps you've been underestimating their importance, or if necessary, you would send a inspector back out to reevaluate how important it is. But repeatedly, the department closes the file, and even if the person is told after closing, after the complainant is told, now in effect, they're in the position of either trying to get a closed file reopened or having to file a whole new complaint and start from ground zero. So my request to the department, and maybe this has to go all the way to the commissioner, I don't know, but my request to the department is that there should be some aspect of routine. It's like a victim's rights thing. Some aspect of routine that before these are closed, there was some assurance that either the complainant is satisfied, or if not satisfied, has had an opportunity to express that, and there's been a re-verification that the problem is resolved. I mean, I know in the complaint center that complaints are considered closed if the complainant, if you get a letter from the business saying I've solved the problem and the complainant doesn't, you don't necessarily hear anything from the complainant again. So I would hope in here where you're dealing with people who own their own homes in a mobile home park, that there's that check. And I think that needs to be built in institutionally. And then what would have happened is you would have made some communication with the complainant after you had decided that your evidence showed that the complaints were satisfied, just as a check to make sure. And if you then gotten this letter, then I think you probably would have done something to double check whether or not there was still a problem. That's the difference. Now it's coming after the fact. And I would ask you to think about that as a matter in the investigatory process, because it's really important that the complainants be recognized, and the reputation of the department, even if this is unjustified, is that the department doesn't act quickly enough or does not consider complaints important enough. And I think it's important to dispel that. And if you dispel it, you'll get more complaints, which is a good thing because it'll allow you to help keep the parks up better. And especially from those parks that don't do a good job of maintaining themselves.
I'm afraid I've got to, in the interest of time, keep us moving. Cynthia, I'm going to ask that we return to this topic at our next meeting, and we carry on that conversation with Pamela, because obviously this impacts the inspection side as much as it does yours. So, and I think we all recognize that we're not talking about a legal requirement here. We're talking about the department adopting as a matter of its own policy or practice. Practice is perhaps a better word than policy in this case. Something that would give residents a little more assurance that they are being taken seriously. I do want to give you a moment, please, to respond to the question Miriam asked about the status of this park. I've also gotten questions. People seem to be quite confused as to what's going on. So we appreciate any information you have.
So the latest I have on the receivership, the park is not sold. There has been talk or information given to the bank and to the court by the receiver that there's a buyer. There have been a couple dates that have been given for the closing by the Lanús, but those dates have come and gone and there hasn't been a sale. So the most recent, and also the bank, which is now for closing on the property, put in a motion, and there was an order on May 27th saying that if a sale does not occur by July 22nd, the receivership will remain in place. If the sale does occur by that date, the receivership will be terminated as of the date of the closing. So, and this is information that I've gotten as of even recently last night at about 4:30. The Attorney General's office has the same information. We don't know who this prospective buyer is, but the impression that the bank is under is that they'll be paid in full once this sale goes through. And it's been represented that there is a buyer, we just don't have more details. And the AG's office doesn't have more details on who the buyer is either. The receivership is still in effect, and it will be in effect until it's sold. And that's really the most recent court filings that are on this case. There's also, the receiver submitted their report as of, I believe it was March, the end of March, with 44 pages of expenditures for work performed during the first quarter of the year. And that's in the most recent filing also from the receiver. That's in the judicial website. So, at this point, that's the status of it. It's still being worked on. There's been a lot of work done on this. It's all public record. If anyone, or I can even forward it to you, it's on the judicial website, but there's tons of expenditures for snow removal, for tree removal, brush removal, trash, removal of abandoned mobile home units. And that's something that, of course, the Superior Court is overseeing. The department doesn't oversee the receiver's expenditures, but the receiver is in communication with the department when necessary, and has been submitting expenditures and evidence of work throughout, the appointment of the receivership. But that's really the most recent information I have on that.
Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This brings me to the other question I asked is.
Dave, I'm going to have to cut you off, I'm afraid, and ask you to correspond with Cynthia.
All right. Okay.
Or email me directly.
We have all of 8 minutes left, and we've stalled Colette most unfairly. Colette, I appreciate your patience and apologize that we have so little time to talk about the park purchase program. But if you could give us a quick update, and then perhaps you and I can talk offline. And we talked about getting a draft of the redesign that we can share with the council, and then maybe have a follow-up meeting of the finance committee. So please, if you can, in a few minutes, just give us an update.
Yeah, so good news. The draft is ready. So I'm prepared to share that. I can share that with you after the meeting, Bennett, and happy to have a separate conversation and kind of talk about next steps and what'll work best for folks. If you want to have a brief meeting to go through it together, or if you want to take the opportunity to send me written comments, that would allow me to kind of go through them and talk internally with folks. If there's lots of comments, to get some feedback, whatever you think would work. But I'm ready to share that and happy to do that. And we can talk about next steps.
That's wonderful. That's really great news. I really appreciate it. Can you, at a very high level, sort of outline what CHFA sees as the next steps in the process?
Again, I think the best thing is to get it to you guys, have you take a look at it. Written comments are helpful because it just gives us the opportunity to kind of think it through. Maybe it's something that we didn't, recognize on our own, kind of discuss it internally, have some answers prepared. And then we can set up a time to discuss it. But I think that might be the best way to do it. I know, Bennett, you had indicated that there was more of a subgroup interested in having follow-up meetings. And, I'm happy to schedule those, 30 days out, or, whatever is a reasonable time frame for folks to take a look at it and provide some meaningful initial feedback.
That's great. And I really welcome that opportunity. But I was asking really sort of beyond that. Let's assume we get to a final design. What are, how much more is it to get this actually implemented?
I think the next kind of conversation that I was going to have while you're reviewing that is to continue my conversations with our internal legal group you know, because they'll need to start to think about what legal documents would look like. We do have an application that was drafted originally, you know, I need to kind of take a look at that and see if there's any edits that need to occur with that. So I think it's more mechanics and making sure the pieces are there for administration. So those are some steps that I'll be working on kind of parallel to the review by the council.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much. If you get that to me, then I'll get back in touch with you. We'll talk
Okay.
about how we can best get some comments to you. I think it does make sense for us to look at it as a group and submit any written comments to you before we sit down. So that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that'll kind of help nudge it along, and you know, we can have kind of be prepared to have some answers ready, or try to have some answers ready when we meet.
Excellent. Thanks. Anything else you want to share at this point?
No, I think we're good. I'm
Super.
glad Marcus was able to report. And I think that's it from CHFA.
Yeah, I again want to thank the department for its really aggressive approach to the financing program. You've done a tremendous amount in a short time. I know it's going to take a while for the word to permeate, but it seems like you're doing all the right things, and I'm glad to see that the park owners are so much behind this and being so helpful in getting the benefit of everybody. And
Kudos to Chaffa on that.
numbers to start going up quickly once those, especially once the meetings take place. I think in-person meetings with resident associations will be a great help there. So
The one other thing I would mention, Bennett, is that I also was going to share the draft with CDI. So something, again, we can talk about this offline, whether you think it would be helpful to include them in our subgroup meetings, or if it's more helpful for me to deal with them on my own separately to get any feedback from them. You don't need to respond, but just something that I wanted to kind of just talk through.
okay, great. Well, we'll definitely follow up on that as well. In the 2 minutes remaining, is there any other business to come before the council today?
Yes.
I just want to, go ahead, Joe, I'm sorry.
Do you have Marcus's email? There are 15 boards in the state, individual boards. If I could pass that on to him, it'd be another mailing of some sort that he can contact them directly regarding this program.
Yeah, no problem. I can send it to you. It's on our website as well. It's real simple. It's marcus.smith@chfa.org.
I'm sorry, what's his last name? Smith?
Smith.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Dave, did you?
I just want to suggest, throw this out there as an idea. Given the history at Country Mobile and the fact that the council has visited other mobile home parks in the past, given the checkered history of that place, I would like the council to get a picture of where things are now and where they might be going under new management going forward, so we can assure these people, you know, so that we can see with our own eyes what's happening there over a period of time. And I just wanted to throw that idea out, see if anybody has any comment on it.
Is there a residents association there?
I don't know. I don't think so. Ann is pretty much the point person there.
Yeah, well, it may be something you want to explore with her. I think we're probably going to be a little farther away from the pandemic before anybody's thinking about
an
in-person tour, and maybe a little awkward without a sponsor for all of us to go trooping in. But why don't we talk about it and see what thoughts are? We'll probably know a lot more at our next meeting in terms of where this sale is going. And we don't. I'm certainly not opposed to it. We just don't have any official status, that gives us the right to go marching through somebody's home.
I'm talking about the park, not the house. I don't know that.
I
it's-
understand, I understand.
That's what he meant. I think what I would want to do is find out if this thing is going to close, and then find out if the new owners are new to the area or they're existing park owners already in Connecticut, and this is an additional community for them. And then depending on what that answer is, we can surely bring them into the association, and then, you know, whether it's myself or Miriam or Marsha or Nancy, work with the new owners to just make sure that they understand that they're under a pretty tight microscope on making sure stuff gets done. But until the owner's identified, it's hard to really know what the plan is. If it stays in receivership, the court's really going to decide along with G&W what is considered satisfactory until it does sell.
It's a good point, Mark. You wouldn't happen to have any inside information?
I wish I did. Believe me, I would tell you today. I'm really in an unusual position that I don't know the answer. It's not like me to not know. I just don't know. And we have a relationship with the bank, and they won't tell us either.
Well, I
But the
suspect we
Lanouis,
won't know before the next meeting.
the Lanouis are out basically, right?
Well, I think they're still on the hook. You know, the bank still has to foreclose on them. So they're out in the sense that they don't control it anymore, but they're still tied to it, you know, until the bank takes it and it goes to auction or sale or something. They're still on the hook for the loan.
They're responsible for the lien. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Sounds like that they're out, you know, mentally, it sounds like they've checked out.
All right, well, thank you all. Bob, thanks for your help. And I see Janita, you've stuck around with us. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all in, Bob, you want to remind us of the next meeting date? I know it was in the agenda, but I don't have it open at the moment. You're muted, Bob. You have to unmute.
September 8th.
September 8th.
September 8th. And are we back to our normal 10 o'clock time?
I've heard that. Yes, we are. Yeah, as far as yes, we are. Yes.
Bob,
Will be live by September?
We don't know at this point yet. It's up in the air. There's a possibility that we may continue the Zoom format for possibly through the end of the year. They're not sure yet. So,
Bob, one request for the minutes for this meeting.
Yeah.
I copied you on this letter from Ann Balone. I'd like to request, just because she's of the history there and the allegations she's making, if you could include that as part of the minutes for this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Vlad. Thank Joe.
Summer.
Bennett, before I lose you or everybody, the decision on whether we're in person or by Zoom, is that a decision just gets made by DCP, or is that a decision that
Well,
we
in the
have
first
any?
instance, it's made by the governor. And we're waiting to hear. He's bringing state employees back next month, he says. So I imagine he's not going to bring boards and commissions back
Right.
after that. So we'll
Okay, all right. Thanks.
certainly keep a close eye on that. What I assume people would prefer to be in person if we could by then, but I will certainly share any information I come across between now and then.
As will I. Yeah.
And
Thanks.
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
one more quick problem. Park license. I still do not have any of my park licenses. I that two of the parks got inspected back in February. I don't have park licenses. I paid in December. I don't get it.
Well, Janita's here. If you can come back on for a moment and give Marcia some assurance that she's in good shape.
Not a problem, Chairman Pudlin. Ms. Stem, if you want to email me and let me know what parks were inspected that you don't have the licenses for, I will gladly get to that investigator or inspector who did the inspections there and find out why it was not approved and why you don't have your license.
Oh, I'd appreciate that, Janita. Thank you so much.
No, you're not. You're quite welcome. My email address is still the same from back when Ed Collins, God rest his soul, was with us. So
Collins.
yeah. So but it's Janita. It's JANITA Hamel, HAMEL @CT.gov.
Thank you so,
JANITA.Hamel, HAMEL @CT.gov. Because I
There-
see Mr. Asnes and Mr. Delory are also writing it down, so you can always email me. But
Yeah,
I will need the park numbers, please.
okay, very good. I know I've got 2 that were inspected, but I never got the other 2. I don't think they've even gotten inspected. I don't know what happened.
I don't either, and I will definitely look into it, but I do need the mobile home park license number so I can check into that for you.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you so
No,
much.
No, not a problem.
Thanks, Janita.
Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome, Chairman Podlin. Are we
Thank
good?
you.
We're done.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good summer. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.